To all my marketers out there, you're probably spread real thin right now. I'm sure you need some help between creating content, launching campaigns, generating leads, scoring leads, nurturing leads, and a lot more stuff with leads. You barely have a moment to breathe, let alone do your best marketing. But that's where HubSpot and Breeze, its new built-in AI, come in. When you combine the power of Marketing Hub and Content Hub, you can have your best quarter, every single time. With tools that instantly remix your content, lead scoring to shine a light on potential customers, and AI-curated analytics suite for reports and KPIs. And that's all alongside co-pilots and agents to automate all of your tasks, making your life easier, getting you the results faster, and better connecting you to all your data all in one place. Doesn't that sound nice? So stop spreading yourself so thin and start making major moves with HubSpot. You can visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, January 22nd. I'm Mark Dent here with Rob Litterst, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Winter is upon us. There's freezing temperatures, there's a lot of snow across the country, and ski resorts just finished up what is traditionally one of the busiest skiing weekends of the year. But all is not going well in the industry, especially for Vail Resorts. After riding high with epic pass sales for more than a decade, Vail Resorts has lately faced worker strikes and customer dissatisfaction. It's exactly the wrong kind of downhill results they're looking for. So we're going to get into all of that here in a bit, but first, let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting off, Goldman Sachs staffers are getting a new non-traditional coworker. It's called GSAI. The bank released this new generative AI assistant to about 10,000 bankers, traders, and asset managers, with plans to make it available to all knowledge workers by the end of the year. So the tool is initially supposed to help employees with tasks like proofreading emails or translating code into different languages. It's actually eventually intended to mimic an experienced Goldman Sachs employee and pretty much perform all the tasks that it can do without any human oversight. How does that sound to you, Rob?
I'd be very scared if I was
Put it mildly.
Junior Goldman Sachs employee. I mean, I think a lot of the work that those guys do is looking over documents, like reading, giving analysis and context, commentary. And honestly, I mean, they get paid incredibly well.
Yep.
You know, I think there's an episode of My First Million with this guy, Jesse Pujji, who was talking about like the Goldman Sachs model, right? And it's like Goldman Sachs might get like a fraction of a percentage point as the fee for like certain funds that they have. But then when you stretch that over like billions and billions of dollars and it's a team of like 15 people, you've got like everybody in that team making like over $1 million a year, including the like 25-year-old junior associate or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity for those margins to go even higher if they can replace some of the junior employees with AI.
And that's exactly what Goldman Sachs is thinking. And they're going to try to bring that tool to the rest of the market. So other companies would be able to use it. I mean, it could have an effect, obviously, far beyond Goldman Sachs too, if it ends up being kind of as big of a deal as it sounds like it is.
Totally. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this.
Yeah. We're going to be going over a snippet like this probably at least every week, certainly every other week here, I think, this year.
Yeah. Our AI replacements will be going over a snippet of this about us in a year.
Right. By September, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of coworkers in offices, on Monday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to bring federal workers back to the office full time. They won't be alone. Amazon, JP Morgan, and AT&T are among the major corporations who've also told workers to return this year. Moving on to the alcohol industry. There's been a lot of problems with a lot of alcohol companies, and the newest one to feel the hit is champagne. According to CNN, champagne shipments from France fell by 10% last year, and even in France, domestically, they fell by 7%. One major reason why, according to a study by Comité Champagne, is that people, they just aren't in the mood for celebrating these days, so no bubbles.
When's the last time you had champagne, Mark?
I think I did about a month ago, actually. I was at a wedding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, I can't really think the last time I had it.
Yeah.
It is very much a celebratory drink, so yeah, if people are not feeling the vibes.
Yeah, maybe it needs like a rebrand, like to where it's not just for celebrations and not just for like, I guess some people use it for mimosas instead of Prosecco.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to just be like, hey, this is a delicious drink that you should have at happy hour.
Yeah, my days in the brunch class are long gone. Like that'd be the other time when I'd be having it. The bottomless mimosa, of course. I like your repositioning. I think you've got a future in branding, Mark.
Okay, good to know. All right, meanwhile, in Arizona, KPMG is trying to become the first Big Four accounting firm to own a law firm. Arizona repealed a law that prevents non-lawyers from owning law firms, which set up the possibility for actors like KPMG to enter the space. The state may approve KPMG's attempt to create its own law firm as soon as this month. And finally, there's something weird going on with the Olympics. Yes, it was just a few months ago, but Paris Olympians have noticed that their medals are fading faster than their memories of the Eiffel Tower. These medals were designed by the luxury jewelry company Chaumet, and each medal took 15 days to complete in a collaboration with France's Mint. However, the Mint has determined after an investigation that the varnish used to protect these medals from oxidation was defective, so they're starting to fade.
Crazy.
Maybe this is just inspiration for the Olympians then to get that next gold medal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately. It's called Nudge, hosted by Phil Agnew. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So have you ever noticed how the smallest changes can have the biggest impact? On Nudge, you learn simple, evidence-based tips to help you kick bad habits, get that raise, and grow a business. Every bite-sized 20-minute show comes packed with practical advice from admired entrepreneurs and behavioral scientists alike. And Nudge is fast-paced, but still insightful with real-world examples that you can actually apply. Oh, and by the way, it's the UK's fastest-growing business podcast. I was listening to an episode recently that Phil, the host, had on Harvard professor Mike Norton, and Mike convinced Phil that he had to handwrite every single one of his emails before sending them to understand what he was really trying to talk about. This process, although it sounds insane, he claims, Phil, that it made his emails 3.5 times better. You got to listen to this podcast. It's a great way to understand how email marketing can help your business. You can listen to Nudge wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so let's move on to the main story, though, which is about skiing. You might have seen some recent headlines about ski patrol workers going on strike in Utah and long lines at resorts. Well, they're just a microcosm of a very large problem for Vail Resorts, which operates 42 ski resorts across the country, including some of the biggest ones like Park City in Utah. It's the biggest corporation owning ski resorts across the country. And despite seeing extreme success and increased popularity of its Epic Pass, which is a season-long ticket, over the last decade and a half, it's now facing stagnant revenues, a fading stock price, and defections of previously loyal customers. So, Rob, let's start off with these lift tickets, this Epic Pass. What's going on with them?
So the Epic Pass is really kind of like a bundle. It's like a genius skiing bundle, right? You get this Epic Pass and you can ski at, any of these mountains that Vail owns. And I think the genius thing that Vail Resorts has done, you mentioned they operate 42 resorts. As they've acquired these resorts, along that same time frame, it started to snow less and less.
Yep.
People are skiing less and less. They're getting less visits to the mountain kind of like organically. So Vail had to come up with kind of like an economic mechanism to drive people towards this Epic Pass. So what they started to do is they started to raise the prices of one-day passes at all of their mountains, basically.
It was like $300 for a one-day pass in Vail last year, for instance.
Exactly. So you buy the Epic Pass and all you have to do is ski 3 times to make your money back from the day passes at their mountains, which it's an economic equation that I think like a lot of families, a lot of casual skiers feel like they can do. Like they can get out 3 times in the course of a few months and kind of gives you an incentive to do something outside.
Mm-hmm.
And the genius thing about this is they have an unbelievable retention rate.
Well, except not anymore, though.
Right.
That's the problem, though, is that this year, and they're a publicly traded company, so they disclose a lot of this data. This is the first year that they saw a year-over-year decline in the number of Epic Passes sold.
Right.
Their revenues for them still went up, according to the Wall Street Journal. That's because of the higher price.
I think sales of the Epic Pass had like more or less flattened a little bit. And they dropped the price to like create this kind of like trigger event to get a bunch of new subscribers. And they immediately saw a resurgence. $1,000 a year. That's steep.
Yeah, I mean, it's up from $579 from the first year that they did it, which was in 2008. Now, back then, Vail had far fewer resorts.
Yeah.
So it is more bang for your buck. But I think it just sort of comes down to, it doesn't make as much sense for people who don't live in Colorado or who don't live in Vermont or Whistler or something like that to pay so much for these kinds of passes. And the other problem is that Vail, they also own hotels, they own restaurants.
Yeah.
In some cases, they own housing in all these mountain towns across the country. And that's led to extremely high prices as these resorts have gotten more popular, there's more visitors, et cetera. And so now people who work at the resorts or who just live in the town and work elsewhere, they're having a tough time affording home prices.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big reasons why Vail is now facing trouble from its workers who went on strike in Utah at Park City in late December.
Yeah. It's wild, man. I mean, I think like on the other side of that with the consumer, what you're seeing with Vail going up in prices like this is they're going for an increasingly stratified kind of customer base.
No question.
They're kind of following the trajectory of like a golf course country club. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of how the math shakes out, right?
Premiumization, everybody's doing it.
Exactly. Unless you're a big skier, you're probably not going to get your money back, especially if you have a family. We're looking at this from a single pass purchase, but if you have like 3 kids, then all of a sudden you're dropping $5,000 for skiing at the beginning of the season. And that's a different equation than $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think skiing's kind of been a premium sport for a little while now. It costs some money to get skis, to get a snowboard, to get all the equipment. But yeah, it's tough to see this, especially with the workers out there.
And the problem for Vail Resorts is now they're charging more money for an inferior product for the most part.
Right.
One customer told the Wall Street Journal, speaking of families, he brought his family and it was nearly $10,000, including hotels and airfare and all of that. And they went to Park City there in Utah, and about 85% of the skiable trails were closed because the workers were on strike. So on the few trails that were open, there was incredibly long lines, and it was just not a good experience. And I think that's the problem that Vail Resorts is going to run into. Obviously, it was greatly heightened by the fact that workers were on strike. But that said, because of the Epic Pass, people who do have that pass, they want to use it, and they typically want to go to the same really popular mountains. So it's made them very busy.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, it has led to somewhat of a boom for indie resorts, which have banded together and they've kind of created their own pass programs, and they've seen some record revenues in the last couple of years. So I think what's going to happen is that Vail Resorts, they may get it all sorted out. They did see a decline in those Epic Pass sales, but like I said, their revenues from them were still up. Their revenues are still basically flat. They're still making a pretty big profit. So they're not in hot water by any stretch, but they're going to have to maybe make some moves.
Yeah. This is like classic customer segmentation. If you can raise the prices and there's not a lot of price elasticity at the high end, then you're going to keep on getting whatever you get up there. And at a certain point, you're going to cut out a large part of the market. The economics of it makes sense, but kind of culturally and for society, it's not great. You're really kind of shrinking the availability of skiing to the general public.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. So everybody, thank you for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot podcast network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We have a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, please go get signed up at thehustle.co/email. And if you really love us, you can also follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.
New year, new resolutions. And this year on the Best Idea Yet podcast, we're revealing the untold origin stories of the products you're obsessed with. And we promise you have never heard these before.
Ever wonder how the iconic Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was invented? Because it was by accident.
H.B. Reese, a former frog salesman,
True story.
stumbled upon the idea after accidentally burning a batch of peanuts. Classic. Proving that sometimes our best ideas arise from what seem like our biggest mistakes.
And Jack, did you know there's a scientific explanation why humans crave that surprising combo of peanut butter and chocolate?
I didn't, but it sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
So, if you're looking to get inspired and creative this year, tune in to The Best Idea Yet. You can find us on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you're looking for more podcasts to help you start this year off right, check out New Year, New Mindset on the Wondery app. Who knows? Your next great idea could be an accident that you burned. This is Nick.
And this is Jack.
And we'll see you on The Best Idea Yet.